Hey, and welcome back once again. Today, we're going to talk about brain fog, and specifically if you've been sick and then you've got brain fog as a result, if you've had flu, if you've had any of the diseases, illnesses, ailments that have been going around over the last few years. I don't want to say the word because I don't want the algorithm to hit it quite hard. But if you've been sick and then off the back of that, you've got worse brain fog, this is going to be what has actually been going on within your body and then what we can do about it. I'm Ollie Matthews. I'm a healer that works as a health and wellness coach for highly achieving entrepreneurs to take them from the brink of burnout all the way to true peak performance without any overwhelm, using functional medicine, nutrition therapy, mindset, and movement techniques. Now we've got that out of the way, let's talk about brain fog. What actually is brain fog? Well, when I describe brain fog to people, I talk to them about, does it feel like your brain is basically just running into a brick wall? You get to a certain point in the morning or afternoon and you just need that caffeine. Or maybe you just try and push through and you're not getting anywhere at all. You get this kind of fuzziness. You're trying to think about the words and you just cannot grab the words. They're just not coming out where you want them to. And then you need more caffeine. You can't focus. You get more headaches. You get migraines. You get more and more frustrated. And it's this vicious circle. Maybe we get a pick me up if we have sugar. But whatever happens, brain fog is much more ripe. There is many more cases of brain fog now than there were 3, 4, 5 years ago. Now, that isn't just going to be because of any sickness that you've had, but also the stress that we've put on our body. Why do we actually get brain fog? Well, it's a sign that there is some neurological inflammation in the body or in the brain. And that inflammation has been building up over time. Now, we need stress in our life. We need stress in order to push new cellular regeneration, new cell structures, new processes within the body. We need that to actually thrive. But it's when we have this chronic stress for long periods of time that we start to get sick. And a lot of times people will be pushing and pushing and pushing, have high stress levels, then go on holiday. Now, those high stress levels for short periods of time absolutely will make a big difference because they're pushing our immune system. And those stress levels, when we then go on holiday and we stop, we get sick. So many times I see people have it, or they then go to the holiday season. They actually go to Christmas time or Thanksgiving and get sick. And we have all these different things. Stress comes in all different forms. I can see John's put a question here. Does fear have an effect on inflammation? Yes. I would say that fear, and just because something is stressful for some person, the perception of it may not be stressful for another person. And I've spoken about roller coasters before, that I do not like roller coasters. Some people don't like heights. Some people have a fear of flying, all these different things. And one person, it might be quite recharging. Another person, it's the really stressful thing. Has the same chemical effect on the body, but how we perceive it will define how stressful that thing is. And it's the same thing with fear. If we are fearful of something, we're going to trigger much more of a stress response. So that's going to impact inflammation. And that goes on with inflammation in the brain. Then we have less blood flow when we have inflammation. We have less blood flow to the brain, which means less oxygen delivery. And it also means less delivery of nutrients that are carried in that oxygenated blood. And then we have a thing called glia cells. Now, these are immune cells of the brain. And I was speaking to a lady 3 or 4 days ago now that had actually had a gym accident where she'd been hit around the head by a barbell. Some reason someone decided to unload 4 plates off one side and smacked her around the head. Now, she's been in and out of doctor's care and different care for like 4 years now, 3 or 4 years. And I spoke to her about glia cells and said, do you find that things become so much more overwhelming now? That if you train hard, you will take a lot longer to recover. Or if you have an argument, if you work late, and she works shifts, and she said, yeah, I can only work for a few hours now. And it's because of these things called glia cells. Now, these glia cells, or microglia cells, microglia cells, are the brain's immune cells. They are there for clearing out dead neurons. Now, our neurons, everyone's heard about neurons when it comes to the brain, but there are actually more glia cells than neurons in the brain. And they are to clear out the waste. If we think about it, that one of my favorite cities in the world, New York City, people leave their rubbish or trash, whatever you want to call it, they leave that out overnight. And then the trash guys, the bin men, the whatever we call them over there, they come through and they want to clear it out. Now, I've heard that they've been on strike at certain points, and all this rubbish builds up. Now, if we didn't have these trash guys, these bin men that actually come and clear it out, it would just start, the streets would start to stink, rats get infested, loads of disease start spreading. And this is the same thing that happens with our glia cells. Now, what happens when we get stressed? So the more stress we have on the body, these glia cells get very much overactive. So they start doing too much. They start searching for more rubbish that isn't there and trying to clear it out. And as a result, when we then go through an extreme amount of stress, when they're already overactive, they go through a thing called glia cell priming. Now, what glia cell priming is that they basically cannot be switched off. They are overactive. And now the different levels of inflammation in our body are going to show up on a kind of a neuroinflammation symptom scale where we get brain fog so easy. This could be a reaction to food. It could be that we, as we said, have an argument with someone. It could be that we just don't go to sleep at the right time. We have alcohol and that impacts us, or gluten. We overtrain, as I've said, or we go to a different time zone. We fly to go on holiday, and because our glia cells are primed, that new destination may be 3 hours out of our normal time zone, and we can't deal with that jet lag. It's just overactive in our body. And one of the things which pushes these stress cells is a thing called viral load. And when we get sick, when we have stress on our body, we have higher and higher amounts of viral load. So if you have had sickness recently over the last few years, if you've had flu, if you've had high levels of cold, if you've had high levels of anything that's going around, it is understandable that if your body was in a stress state beforehand, because your lifestyle wasn't where you needed it to be, because you weren't focusing on improving sleep or hydration or maybe some genetic side of things, then we go into a period where we're in and out of a stressful lockdown, whether we like it or not, taken from one routine to another. I'm not going into any politics here. Taken from one routine to go into another and being forcefully put into that routine is stressful on the body. I'm an introvert, so I can deal with plenty of time on my own, but it was still stressful for me. Our normal techniques of going outside and being able to do lots of exercise, light exposure, less vitamin D exposure, less light exposure to our eyes to improve our circadian rhythm. All of this gets taken away. So that pushes the stress up. Our glia cells get activated. Now, a lot of people have then had the trauma in their previous lives or high levels of stress that this activation then gets pushed over the edge when we then catch COVID or something. Or we hit our head. Someone's been hit our head, knocked out or something like that, or they've just gone through a very traumatic time. This can lead to these glia cells getting primed. Now, if we look at that neuroinflammation scale, the more subtle neuroinflammation is going to be brain fog. So you have hazy thoughts. You can't recall memories. Then you get noticeable variations in mental speed and brain endurance goes down. You get fatigued after, this is something which I used to deal with a lot. High levels of fatigue after chemical exposure. Therefore, things like, one of the things that used to get me was my wife's nail varnish remover, the chemicals in that. But if we think about pollutants in our air, I live in a place called Norwich in Norfolk. And thanks for watching, John. I live in a place called Norwich, which is in Norfolk, and it's one of the highest amount of farming in the whole of the UK, or the most prominent farming county in the UK. And there's a lot of pesticides, chemicals, and things that get put onto the crops. And that means the air quality isn't as good. But even coming back to that, air quality in our own home, chemical exposure to fire retardants, paints, mold is a big one that causes brain fog. We also see BPAs, plastics, Everything's in plastics nowadays. People go to the coffee shop and have a plastic lid on their drinks, drinking from plastic bottles over and over again. This high level of chemical exposure can absolutely cause brain fatigue and brain fog. And the same with different food proteins, as I've mentioned, with reactions to gluten. Then we get into the more moderate side of things. If we don't fix this inflammation, we then get things like bouts of depression. We get a real big inability to concentrate. So we see more people, excuse me, we see more people with ADHD-like symptoms. People are just overly fatigued and tired, and there's more demand for sleep. So we need to sleep for more than 8 hours, but we can't actually sleep. We are getting broken sleep, and we cannot get that sleep. We get more frustrated. Maybe you go to lay your head down and then we're wired, but we're really tired. Or we sleep for 2-3 hours and then we need to wake up and go to the toilet. We then can't get back to sleep, and all these different things. We have low levels, low levels of motivation. We get a kind of loss of appetite, but then eat loads of sugary food because we're just craving that to lower the stress in the body. And there's kind of just an inability because we're achy that to be physically active. And then we can get into very severe, very, very severe. If we do not fix these things, you could have things like seizures. You could then trigger dementia with the poor stress in the body, stress management in the body, things like comas, difficulty speaking, like people literally losing their ability to speak because they haven't dealt with the stress and inflammation in their body. And confusion, disorientation, people getting mistaken for being drunk when they're not. And these are extreme stresses on the body for extreme amounts of time. But this shows us that when we have buildups of stress, then we have stress out of our control, like different laws getting put into place, lockdowns, different sicknesses that come along that we're worried about getting, that we're worried about our loved ones getting, and then they do get them and we're worried about them surviving. Then we're worried about financial stress, and we're worried about routine, all the while where our body is out of normal routine, where it's not able to get the sunlight and get the exercise. It's no wonder that there is so much more brain fog. Now, we then aren't our own best friend, because we then end up that we don't eat as good as we could. We then have more alcohol because it's a coping mechanism, more caffeine because we are tired, and the alcohol, we want to help us sleep, or we're just anxious. So we have these things. But not only that, having high levels of processed food that spike our blood sugar levels, and low levels of protein or good quality protein. We don't set ourselves up for success with sleep, and we don't get the movement in. We don't breathe as well as we could do. But when I look to work with clients, there are 6 steps that we look to go through to get them to this 6th step, or 5 steps we look to go through to get them to this 6th step. And this 6th step is healthy maintenance, where their body is able to just do what it's designed to do without even thinking about it. Its nutritional needs are met, and its stress is actually at good levels where it's able to recharge, regenerate, and rejuvenate new cells. To get to that point, we have to have good levels of cellular repair, which means that the toxins, the chemicals that come into the system, are able to be dealt with. We have good levels of antioxidants within the body. And in order to do that, we have to be able to detoxify. We have to be able to eliminate those factors. So we have to be able to remove those toxins. So that's the 4th stage. The 3rd stage is actually being able to open up to be able to detoxify, have good filtration and drainage support. So we have to have good liver function, good kidney function, good lymphatic drainage, where people say, oh, one of my lymph nodes is up, or anything like that, or these sorts of things. And then they get sick, and it's a sign of being run down. But in order to have good detoxification and good filtration, we have to have good digestive support. So we have to have good gut health. We shouldn't be bloating randomly. We should be able to go to the toilet every 16 hours or so, not 2-3 days. We have to have good digestive support. And in order to do that, we have to have good brain health. So the first step I work with people is looking at their stress response system. It's my job to see exactly where their central nervous system is at. and know exactly how to take them from point A to B, to C to D to E to F, and so on, one single step at a time without being overwhelmed. So once we've got good neuroendocrine support, once we've got good digestive support, we're then going to have good filtration, good detoxification systems, good ability to repair our cells, and then good healthy maintenance becomes just super, super easy. Now, if you are dealing with brain fog, yes, you could just message me and we can talk about one-to-one coaching, or you can go to ojayhealth.co.uk/virtual coffee and book in for a call with me. But I have a program called the 21-day Brain Fog Blitz. Now, it's not actually officially launched until the 9th of October. So if you sign up before the 9th of October, you get a call with me to go through within a month of you actually signing up to talk about health, to talk about your one-to-one needs. But in this course, there are multiple videos that are going to take you through the optimal morning and evening routine, look at your nutrition, look at how much movement you need, look at how we can actually manage alcohol, manage caffeine to help our body, look at recipes. There's supplement guides in there. There are so many things in there in this video course to allow you to truly take control of your brain fog once and for all. Now, it's just $97. If you want to sign up to that, go to www.ojayhealth.com/brain fog blitz. Now, any questions you have on this, drop me a message. You know that to help yourself with this brain fog, you can do it. We don't have to use caffeine as a pick-me-up. We can have our body to truly support itself so that when we choose to have caffeine, coffee, alcohol, these things, we are doing just that. We are choosing to have it and not needing to have it to actually get through the day. Thank you for watching or for listening.